surface water would be our streams, lakes, rivers, reservoirs, any above ground storage or conveyance of a water system. And then a watershed is an area of land where all of the water drains to a common point. It's kind of like a big bathtub. All of the precipitation that falls within that watershed ultimately travels over the surface or through the ground and drains to one common point.
Groundwater, on the other hand, is water that's below the surface. We can't see it, but nevertheless, it's an important source of water supply for the state of Wyoming. Groundwater exists in aquifers primarily. When aquifers are close to the surface, oftentimes they in fact help discharge into surface waters or help supply the water that we see in our lakes and streams. So in a sense, in many parts within the state, the two are actually connected, become one and the same in a surface water body.
One thing that the DEQ does to help ensure watershed health is through the Non-Point Source program, which is a voluntary program, and we offer technical and financial assistance to local stakeholders to implement restoration projects. So non-point source pollution occurs when you have rainfall or snowmelt within a watershed, and as that precipitation travels overland within the watershed or through the ground in a watershed, it picks up contaminants from human activity. And then those contaminants that are picked up by this precipitation ultimately get deposited into our streams, lakes, reservoirs, or into our groundwater, where they can negatively impact water quality and the uses of those water bodies.
Stormwater regulations are in place to ensure that during development activities, runoff from those sites, and primarily sediment runoff in particular, doesn't get into our surface water supplies. The greatest threats really are those that impact water supplies, either a drinking water supply well or a livestock water supply well. That's the type of source of pollution that's a priority for us.
One example of a successful restoration project is the town of Jackson, and they worked with many different partners to construct a stormwater wetlands. And the wetland acts like a big filter to filter out these pollutants before the water reaches the water body, which in this case was Flat Creek. It was a very successful project. Data comparing the water going into the wetland versus the water going out of the wetland shows that that wetland really is capturing bacteria and sediment, nutrients, and oil and grease, so that the water entering into Flat Creek is much cleaner than when it goes into the wetland, which helps protect the health of Flat Creek, which is an important fisheries, is used for a lot of recreation. It's an important resource to the community.